Let's test cheap versus expensive cut-resistant gloves. Starting with the cut test, we can see cheap does very poorly. Cheap re-enters the competition with a good performance on our oiled melon grip test. Moving on to a dexterity test, again cheap continues to do slightly better. Onto our breathability test, and expensive is a little more breathable. And finally on our early morning cold test, expensive does much better than. Let's test cheap versus expensive sight helmets. Starting with an impact test, we can see expensive absorbs more of the hit. Moving on to our stay on the head test, they do about as well as each other. We can see that expensive is much better ventilated and will keep the top of your head cooler. And finally onto our hat hair test, again expensive. Let's test cheap versus expensive paper towels. Starting with our bean strength test, we can see expensive does much better. Now moving on to our wipe test, and this time actually expensive does better. This is interesting as cheap seems to have a much better capillary action than expensive does, but we can see the fibers are much closer together on expensive, meaning it could pick up more liquid. This we can confirm with our water squeeze test. And finally on our face wipe peanut